Welcome to the Sitcom Archive Deep Dive Overdrive, the SADDO podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Eggs Benedict.
And I'm your other co-host, Alison Barton-Simmons.
If you've been with us so far, you'll know we're balls deep into Series 1 of The Good Life, and we're going to do every single episode of The Good Life. Such fans are we of most 70s and 80s sitcoms, but particularly this one. It's one of our favourites. We're going through every episode, week by week, and having a good deep dive into it and having a look at what makes it funny and the characters and everything about it, really. The fashion, the bizarre 70s and 80s idiosyncrasies. It's been good fun so far, eh?
It has. The whistling, the noise making. It's all there.
Yep. Oh, God. Tom, this week I'm going to get stuck into the basket.
It's a bad week. It's a bad week for you. I thought about you when I rewatched it because there's a lot of noise making. Not just from Tom either. That generator is a noisemaker. Obviously not on the same kind of annoying level, but there's a lot of whistling and general racket.
The generator isn't a sentient being, so I let it off, whereas Tom should know better. But before we get stuck into this week's episode, which is called,
yes.
What is it called? The Thing in the Cellar.
The Thing in the Cellar.
I just wanted to remind everyone that these episodes of The Good Life are all available to stream for free on the dailymotion.com website, so you can watch along with us. Yep.
You can get them on BritBox over here in the UK, or they're on DVD, if you're old school.
They are. So, before we get stuck into this week's episode, which, as I said, is called The Thing in the Cellar, do you, Alison Barton-Simmons, want to play another round of Does Margo Approve?
Yay!
Does Margo approve? Does she approve? Does Margo approve? Does she approve? Does Margo approve? Does she approve? Or, as it's more accurately really called, what does Penelope Keith disapprove of this week?
Oh, looking forward to it.
Okay, so it's actually not really a round of, it's not something for you to guess, it's just another piece of Penelope Keith being curmudgeonly that I found, which I found really amusing, so I'm just going to read it out.
What has she said?
She's just such an old misery guts.
Oh, no.
So in an interview in 2011, the sitcom actress has accused TV bosses of killing off family shows through their invidious practice of targeting the youth market. The star of To the Manor Born said modern television had become terribly compartmentalised and pointed out that her most successful shows had not set out to appeal to any particular audience. She said she felt sad that sitcom had become a pejorative term because all the best comedies were about funny situations. In an interview, the 71-year-old, which must mean she's 80 now, I guess. The 71-year-old explained, when I did The Good Life and Manor Born, producers didn't have to fill in forms saying which audience they were targeting. It was just commissioned because it was good. And I see what she means by that. It's a bit too...
Hashtag different times, though.
Yeah, I think she's just one of these who craves for the good old days.
Yeah.
But here, this is where she gets proper curmudgeonly. Life today is terribly compartmentalised. Children and adults eat in separate rooms or watch television in separate rooms. I'm sure there's a reason why young people occasionally bash up old people because the ages don't mix anymore.
Whoa! No, big sweeping generalisation there from Penelope, though.
I don't think you can really blame violence against the elderly on the fact that people don't get together to watch The Good Life anymore.
No.
Having said that, me and you have been watching it, and I haven't beaten up any pensioners this week.
I haven't touched one. No.
Well, pat on the back for us.
Absolutely. I've not cracked anyone, so it's
good on you. She goes on to say, this is to the Radio Times, this interview, I remember a girlfriend of mine saying that her daughter thought the Egyptians came next to the Victorians, which is extraordinary, but that's the way they're taught. My generation learned everything in sequence from the Norman conquest on. She claimed that life experience is no longer valued by society, adding older people who just happen to have been around longer may not be cleverer than the young, but they've seen more.
Oh, heck yeah. She's someone that I really want to like, but I don't know. I don't think we'd get on.
No, she seems very conservative, which I don't know why we're surprised about given Margot's character, but you just kind of hope that she was just playing the part.
Yeah, very, very well. But actually, it doesn't seem much of a stretch.
Well, I still love you, Penelope, if you're listening. Yeah. But if you are listening, you're probably appalled at my grammar. So
we're going to be in the Radio Times, aren't we? Fingers crossed.
I think we'll have to divert our attention to Felicity Kendall. You can buddy up to her instead. We'll get her to listen in.
Yeah.
Right, let's start saying nice things about Felicity. Well, mind you, we only ever say nice things about Felicity Kendall, don't we?
We do. Felicity Treacle Kendall.
Right, okay. So on that curmudgeonly note, let's get stuck into The Thing in the Cellar, Series 1, Episode 5.
Yay.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So this week, Al, we open with, did you notice the very first scene where we see outside? There's that lovely sort of woodwind music playing. It just makes you feel nice and relaxed. And
yes.
I loved it. It just made me feel like all relaxed and nostalgic.
Oh, it was. It's just like getting together with an old friend in it when you watch an episode of The Good Life. It's brilliant. It is.
So the woodwind plays, and then we see Barbara's baking indoors. So she's making some bread.
Yes,
which we'll get back to in a bit. I actually thought it was a granny loaf or something when she was putting it in, but anyway. And we can hear Tom like making noises, sort of going into noise overdrive in the cellar, and Barbara shouts down to him, and he's too busy making noises to hear what she's saying, and he's rightly told to shut his face.
Absolutely. His noise seems to it's when he's excited, it's when he's not sort of concentrating on a task, it's when he's just filled with excitement and just overcome with positivity, I think.
Yeah, I mean, positive people, you admire them, but you don't want to be around them all the time, do you? Because of that.
No, it's a bit much.
It becomes exhausting, and I guess, I don't know, Barbara must have the patience of a saint. But
yes.
She calls him up for his cup of coffee, his rationed cup of daily coffee. Or was it tea? I'm not really sure what it was.
It's coffee. It is coffee, yeah.
And then we get Margo and Jerry turn up, don't we? And it's quite amusing when they come in, and the way they greet Barbara, because Margo immediately says, "You're looking terribly tired and drawn." Whereas Jerry turns up and goes, "Hey, dollface."
Yeah, I thought it was lovely. And it's that first time that we really see the relationship between the neighbours as people and as men and women and couples together, if that makes sense. And their interaction with each other, with the opposite sex of the other couple.
Yeah, a little bit flirtatious. We did see it, I think, one previous week where, mind you, that was more lecky, wasn't it? When Jerry was. Was it when
Margo was drunk?
I think it was when Barbara came round covered in filth from the hob, and Jerry was just leching at her. But this is a bit more wholesome. He's just, "Hey, dollface," I quite liked it.
Yeah.
He's in his indoor jacket again, isn't he?
Oh, that indoor jacket. I have more to come on the indoor jacket.
Yeah, the indoor jacket is almost a star in its own right in this one, isn't it?
It is.
So Margo assumes that the electricity's been cut off. Obviously foreshadowing the electricity problems that are going to come later. I think she blames neo-Marxist strikes.
She does. Which is, it did make me laugh.
She wears a heart on her sleeve. And then it quickly becomes apparent what Tom's up to down in the cellar. He's making a generator to essentially turn pig shit into lecky, isn't he? Yes,
to keep that circle going round of the lifestyle that they've started.
Yeah, and it's quite a noble thing he's doing, but like we said, he's just full of bloody enthusiasm and
joy.
Quite tiresome. So while he's down there, Jerry goes and takes a look, and Margo tries once again to convince Barbara that they need to give up this nonsense, which is getting quite tiresome now. Even suggesting that Tom needs psychiatric help.
Yes. And she does mean it. You can tell that Margo, the character of Margo, she means it as well. She cannot see beyond the the fact that this is a strange thing going on in the house next door that she doesn't understand, and because she doesn't understand it, it's obviously mental.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. It's not at all.
Yes.
I think we said last week that it was a turning point for Margo, but I think perhaps we do have to wait until the second series because she's still
they're still chipping away, aren't they? They're still chipping away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we cut to Tom down in the cellar whistling and noise making. It's apparent that what he needs actually is a slap rather than psychiatric help. He just needs a kick up the arse. So Jerry's down there to have a look because he's quite interested in what he's doing, but he sort of mocks him, doesn't he, in his typical kind of deadpan, snarky way. Yeah,
I didn't like it. It made me feel a bit sad that your friend from next door is showing you this thing that is going to bypass the need for electricity to come into the house. He's created his own sort of energy source in the house to light bulbs.
It is impressive, isn't it?
It is. It's really impressive. I was really impressed anyway. So I just felt a bit let down by Jerry not jumping on board and
Jerry has that moment of like the penny dropping where he says, "Oh, hold on, you're never going to have to pay an electricity bill again, are you?" So he sort of realises that the goods are going to save a fortune, and then he starts thinking about how much electricity Margo uses.
Yes.
And
which fuels another argument.
Well, yeah, predictably. But before we get to the argument, Tom says to Jerry that it's all the devices they have, and he says they have an electric toothbrush. And I wouldn't have thought they were around in 1975. I never saw one until the 90s, did you?
Yeah. I think, I don't know, in the 70s, were they not sort of like, I might regret saying this, they were like toothbrushes / vibrators. I might have to look into that.
Multi-purpose.
I think they might have been. Multi-use electrical equipment for the home that was like advertised in the back of like newspapers and magazines. I'm going to look into that and I will report back.
Yeah, if you can find a picture of a 1970s electric toothbrush, let's tweet it out.
Because
I'm sure it's going to be like it's going to be like Joey's phone from Bread, isn't it? Massive. And the other thing that apparently they have is an electric swivel stick, and I've no idea what that is. Do you?
Oh, swivel stick. I don't know. Maybe we need to find out. Is it like a? I don't know. That sounds like a stirring implement for things, like for stirring your brew up, or I don't know. Maybe that's the / vibrator thing that I'm thinking about. The swivel stick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Swivel on this.
Swivel on that. I need to look into this a bit more deeply, I think.
I wonder if Jerry uses the dildo as well.
Possibly.
I don't want to think about it. But Jerry points out the ruthless nature of the sustainability life that they're leading, because effectively the pigs are gonna shit. Shit's going to turn into lecky, and then they're going to kill the pigs and keep the pork, in the freezer, powered by the pig shit, which is a bit harsh on the pigs.
Powered by pig shit. It's a circle of life, though, Ben.
I suppose so.
It's it. It's what they signed up for. But yeah, it does say Pinky and Perky in the freezer. Yeah.
Although, this is the thing. I don't really think that Tom's generator would stand up to much, in terms of real life. I don't think it's probably very feasible what he's doing. And much of what they do, as has been explored in countless arguments since the show was on, it's just unachievable. They're not really living a sustainable life in a very real way. I mean, they won't eat the pigs. They never do eat the pigs because they're too soft,
Yeah. They're just mounting up animals as they go along, really. Not with the intention to sort of go through with it and eat it, but they just end up with loads of pets.
Yeah. It's quite nice, but... But then again, like we said in the first episode, they paid off the mortgage by the time they're 40. They don't really give a shit.
Yeah. No, do what you want. Dig your garden up.
Yeah. Oh,
have pigs as pets.
Imagine that now if you lived in that house in Surbiton at the age of 40 and you owned it outright. You could do what you wanted, couldn't you?
Absolutely. God, that must be unheard of.
So anyway, we go back up to the kitchen, and Margo's still sniping and sort of making remarks, and Barbara's bread's ready. It comes out of the rag and bone man's range, and And do you know what? Everyone's laughing at it, all the audience and everything. And my mouth was watering. I thought, that looks amazing. Oh.
And when they said, later on in that scene about, so what's for lunch? Oh, it's bread and cheese. Do you know, I could have well gone bread and cheese with that bread. It looked fantastic. It did.
Probably goat's cheese from Geraldine as well.
Oh, it was, because he said, "Oh, good old Geraldine." So that's what they were eating. Oh, I could murder that, actually.
Because Jerry, of course, is boasting about what they're going to have for dinner, but I think I fancy the bread and cheese more.
Yeah, I would stick around at the goods.
We're just too simple, aren't we? We are. We don't have delusions of grandeur like Margo and Jerry.
No.
Well, but before the argument starts between Margo and Jerry, Tom enters and says,
"Hello, Margo. Nice bit of thigh."
Yeah.
Slaps her on the thigh.
So I do quite like the sort of like playful, fun-loving relationship that they have between them, and you can see it coming out now. You can see the friendship and the relationship that they've got as couples that live next door to each other and friends. It is quite.
Yeah, it is. It's playful, isn't it? And even though Margo, by her own admission, doesn't have a sense of humour, she definitely likes it. There was
she
one
likes the
previous
attention.
Week.
She does.
There was one the previous week, wasn't there, when she went, "Oh, don't be silly." She loves it.
Yes, she did. She did.
Margo's not very impressed, is she, with Tom's success?
No.
Very well. If it'll make everyone happy if I say congratulations, Tom, then congratulations, Tom.
She doesn't really understand it beyond the fact that the neighbours are making a lot of noise. The house smells of animal poo. And they seem to be very busy and flustered a lot of the time.
Yeah. And of course, Jerry then seizes upon the fact that the goods are saving all this money, whereas Margo is wasting all this money. And he makes that joke that every dad in the 1970s and 80s made, which is that, what is it, Al? You know it, don't you?
It's a Blackpool Illuminations joke of if you leave all the lights on, it's like Blackpool Illuminations round here. And yeah, he drops it in there. And it's great because Margo then suggests that Jerry just wants her to turn all the lights off and then she'll just fall down the stairs. And this argument just escalates until she's sort of convinced herself and Jerry that that's what Jerry wants.
Look, Jerry, if you want me to fall down the stairs, why don't you just trip me up or loosen the stair lights or simply throw me bodily down and have done with it?
Well, don't you think it's weird that there's no southern north-south divide, though, when it comes to the house being lit up by, like, Blackpool Illuminations?
Is there another equivalent? Is there an equivalent of the Blackpool Illuminations elsewhere?
Do they not have them in Brighton?
Okay, I found this on the web for is their equivalent of the Blackpool Illuminations elsewhere.
Siri's just answered my question.
What triggered Siri?
I don't know if it was Blackpool. I think it was me asking the question. I didn't say Siri though, did I? Is there a? Maybe. Is there a?
Maybe you said seriously. I don't know.
I'm Siri.
Oh, she's
here to help.
The watch is going off there as well. Oh dear. Yeah, I wonder if there is.
Well, she not answered you.
No, she just asked me what I wanted.
This is the thing, they're useless, aren't they? They pipe up and then they don't bring you any useful information.
Poking its nose in. There we go. So I don't know if there is an equivalent anywhere else in the country. I suppose it's the most famous, I suppose.
Yeah. I haven't been for years, but, well, obviously I live the other side of the world, but...
yeah, it'd be a bit of a trek. Yeah. It's not that good.
Oh. Come on, it's that time of year. Everyone pile in the car.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry.
So Tom gets in a huff, doesn't he, and not being the centre of attention like the man-child that he is.
Yeah!
You know, Tom Good and his magic switch, he even says. He just wants to show off. Yeah. And then he says a great line. He says, "For my next trick, I'll make Margo smile," which I thought was quite funny.
I liked as well how Barbara had a go as well. They both had to sort of flick it on and off to sort of show that they're both involved and that they can both do it. And
they were totally lauding it, weren't they? And it must be rotten not to have your own generator. And And that's when, Jerry shows off about his lunch and they leave.
You two are bloody unbearable, aren't you? Say, well, I'm going to be unbearable now. What are you having for lunch?
Bread and cheese.
We are having game soup, smoked salmon, and a rather drinkable bottle of hock. Ready, Margo?
Bravo, Jerry.
When Margo and Jerry leave, we actually have the most obnoxious line in the show from Tom, which is when the cheese and bread come out and he says, "Come along, woman, I'm starving. Food, food," like Henry VIII, banging his cutlery on the table.
You don't like it when he does that, do you?
What a turd. I'd have just fucking belted him over the head with that loaf of stale bread.
You'd have killed him. Should have killed him with that bread.
She's got the patience of a saint, that woman.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we cut to the outside in the goods back garden. And I know I pointed out the woodwind music at the beginning, but when we cut to the outside, there was like a variation on the main theme tune, and it sounded like it had come right out of a Carry On film.
Yes, it did. It sounded a bit, in fact, and I did notice it sounded a bit like the Archers off Radio 4. There was a bit of an Archers sort of feel to it. Whether that's sort of like a farming, outside, outdoorsy kind of link, I don't know.
It sounded to me like the type of music that usually accompanies Barbara Winter's bra flying off than anything else. Yeah, it just sounded a bit sort of slapsticky. But well, I don't know if it is thankfully or not. We didn't see any bras fly off.
No, not this time.
Barbara had offered to do some sort of naked dance moments earlier, so maybe that was why.
Yeah, naked clog dance on the drainer, I think is what she promised.
Yeah. If this show was on these days, it'd be like Hollyoaks After Dark, wouldn't it? We'd have an episode of The Good Life where the two couples actually swung properly. It was like keys in the bowl, and
lot of cock.
And Barbara brings out Jerry's big yellow car keys, whereas Margo gets like the combine harvester or something, car keys, and off they go, and it's all graphic and unnecessary. So perhaps it's a good job that this show was on in the 70s rather than today.
Yeah, definitely.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So, over the fence, Jerry's pointing out to Tom that he's being a self-sufficiency bore, which he definitely is. And Jerry's clearly a bit bored, so he tries to entice him to go fishing. Tom offers Jerry a lettuce, doesn't he? Which he then retracts and barters for a fag like the fucking leech that he is. He only gives him the lettuce when he gets a ciggy.
Yeah, it was quite odd, that, weren't it? Yeah, you'd think he'd want to sort of show off the lifestyle, like, look what I've made. Look, come on, get on board with it. Have one of these off me. But no, it's sort of self-sufficiency till the end, isn't it? Like, I'll give you this, but I want something in return. I want to barter with my homegrown lettuces.
Yeah, and given all the things that Jerry does for him, he's got a bloody cheek.
Yeah. He has got a cheek.
And I don't know, maybe Dickie Briers was just ad-libbing it, because apparently he was a 60 a day man. That's what killed him in the end, wasn't it? Emphysema.
Really?
Yeah, so maybe he saw the opportunity to get a fag off Paul Eddington.
Get a fag, yeah. I wonder.
So Barbara's desperate to pack off Tom fishing, and who could blame her, really? So she convinces him to go, sort of spinning a line, no pun intended, about eating fresh water fish being a good self-sufficiency tactic, which of course, makes sense. And Tom, starts getting carried away thinking about hunting rabbits on the golf course, which I'm sure he actually does in a future episode.
Yeah.
Tom is pretty much convinced to go off fishing, and Barbara gets some blessed relief. And we cut to the fellas fishing on the bank of the canal or the river. And immediately it's clear, isn't it, that Jerry has already had his fill of Tom's nonsense. He just wants to go on the ale.
He's taken his pole down and he's ready. Yeah, he's ready for the off. But he did say, because my dad's a fisherman, and when Jerry says to Tom, "One last cast," you said that 10 minutes ago, and that is, I think that's just fishermen in general, that if you're enjoying yourself, one last cast is a renowned, right, we're not going on for another 5 hours, so, just get yourself comfy.
Right. And what surprises me in this scene is that I know that golfing is a snobby sport. Johnny's not around, is he? To hear me say that. But,
no, you can't hear.
But I didn't realise that fishing was seen as, because we get this fella come over, don't we? Who's sort of very sort of supercilious and superior, and he calls Tom old man, and he starts talking about quantity, not quality, and being a bit of an arse, really. And Tom's on the defense. Well, he's only aggressive straight away. He's immediately aggressive back towards this guy because he's got a short temper, hasn't he? And the bloke says, "What are you, some sort of anarchist?" And I thought, why is it an anarchist? All he's doing is eating tiddlers. That's not anarchy.
Yeah, he's just fished out all the crappy little fish. Craziness.
Yeah. Yeah, it hardly puts you up there with Johnny Rotten, does it? The guy calls Tom an unmitigated scoundrel.
Scoundrel. I've not heard scoundrel for such a long time. It's sort of accompanied by a waved fist, isn't it? The word scoundrel. You scoundrel.
Yeah, it's up there with words like blighter, isn't it? And rotter.
Yes.
Or cad. I can't hear the word cad without thinking of Major James Hewitt.
Really? Oh, I think of Nigel Havers.
Oh yeah, he's the archetypal cad in TV shows, isn't he?
Yeah, but I get the James Hewitt thing as well.
Yeah, Nigel Havers was ripping off Audrey last time I saw him in Corrie.
In Corrie? Oh, I don't know if he's still... I don't know. I don't watch it.
I think he might be dead, but then again, we're behind here in New Zealand.
Oh, right.
This isn't the Corrie deep dive overdrive, is it?
God.
That's a separate spin-off podcast that we'll get to.
We'll be here forever.
Yeah, we'll have a whole spin-off series on Fred Elliott. I say we'll have a whole spin-off series. Anyway, so the guy, Tom loses it, doesn't he, with the guy when the guy calls him riff.
Yes.
And starts chasing him. And it just seemed to me a couple of silly old buggers, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think fishing is one of those sports with the rules of you don't take the small ones because they've not had a chance to grow into big fish yet, so you've got to put them back. And I think it is one of them sports with a lot of rules going on. So it might have been sort of like bad form to sort of take them for your own use, to take them home and eat. So I could sort of understand the guy getting a bit aerated with Tom. And Tom was, like you say, he was really aggressive about it. Not very apologetic for stepping over the line.
So back in the cellar, Tom's stuck in the freezer after gutting the fish, and Jerry turns up having been summoned, as he often is by Tom, and he's greeting an electrician for them. Tom tries to rope him into chopping some wood, and Jerry's far too savvy to fall for that. And we get a bit of casual sexism thrown in about chopping wood and it not being women's work. Yeah.
Doesn't wash though. Jerry's just not up for it at all. He wants to just sit on the settee with his newspaper.
He says, "You've made your perverted bed and you can lie in it." And then he says he's going to sit down and grow his brewer's goiter, which I had to look up.
What is that? What is it?
It's a big beer belly, effectively.
Oh, right.
It must be another one of these sort of phrases that comes up now and again from the 70s. It's probably an older phrase than the 70s. I imagine it was quite rare then, and it's just died out. Yeah, a brewer's goit. I've definitely got one of them. And
right, so it's like a beer belly.
Yeah, and when he sits down, the chair starts to shake, doesn't it, due to the generator in the cellar. So maybe that's how Barbara gets the thrills if she hasn't got one of those dildo toothbrush things. She just sits in the chair.
She's not got a dildo toothbrush. Yeah, just sit on that chair.
Probably be great fun. And then the sponging bastards borrow Jerry's car. They invite him round.
Yeah.
And they haven't actually got any means to get to where they're going. So
any
they borrow
means
his
of getting,
car.
yeah. Can't get the wood back, but we'll take your car.
they're not sustainable at all. They just completely sponge off him.
Yeah. Jerry's boot must just be just full of all sorts of shit from their bringing home of goats and wood, and they really do have sort of like high expectations of their friend. But he's quite happy to sort of stay put and read the newspaper while they go off and do it. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it cuts, doesn't it, to later that afternoon, and he's just asleep on the settee.
He's probably grateful of it. He'll be grateful.
Yeah, probably. A bit of peace and quiet.
A bit of vaccine out the boot. I think he's probably happy to swap the vaccine out of his boot for a bit of shut-eye on their couch for a couple of hours. It's a fair swap, I think.
Yeah, and I imagine he's probably brought his own bottle, as usual, and he's just slipped into one of his gin comas. Yeah. And then Margo rudely awakens him by popping round and moaning about some gloves.
The gloves.
And then Jerry immediately he probably got, well, it's not morning glory, it's probably afternoon glory. He's woke up with a semi on and he tries to get his leg over it with Margo. And she's not having any of it initially, is she?
Nope. We're in somebody else's house, it's broad daylight.
I don't find the thought of improvised lovemaking erotic.
So the generator stops and Jerry notices, and just as Margot's trying to convince Jerry to come home for a little bit of afternoon delight, Jerry decides he best go and look at the generator down in the cellar, leading to the classic line.
Yep.
Go on now, you do it.
That's the last time I play the tarp for you.
Hey, that's such a brilliant line, that.
Oh, it was brilliant. Yeah, loved it.
And the goods arrive home and find Jerry in the cellar, and Tom just ramps up his arsehole-ometer to 12.
Yes.
And blames Jerry for the generator being broken.
He'd obviously he'd not kept his mind on the generator working, and he was too busy trying to get his leg over.
I don't blame Jerry, though, do you?
No.
It's bloody Tom's baby, innit? And after he snaps at Jerry minces off, and Barbara points out that wasn't very fair, and Tom says, well, I'm not a very fair person.
Yeah.
And I suppose I was torn between thinking there's a moment of, self-awareness, but also what a narcissist, he doesn't even care, really.
No.
But quickly realising that their buggered up generator means the fish is going to thaw and spoil, Tom goes to his usual solution of bludgeoning off the Ledbetters, and having just been obnoxious to him, the cheeky rocks up next door with his fish, asking Jerry to put them in the freezer.
Can you put these in the freezer? Yeah,
which of course he can't, can he? Because there's been a power cut, and I think the episode ends, actually, doesn't it, with just Jerry sarcastically remarking that power cuts don't affect people with their own generator and offering them a candle. And he just does his laugh. It's one of those rare episodes where it's like a victory for Jerry, because usually he's henpecked, isn't he? And he sort of gets the rough end of the stick, and the goods always get their own way. But I think he gets the upper hand there, and then that fades to credits, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who was your sort of most valuable player in this episode? Presumably not Tom.
No, not Tom. I think Jerry in this episode, for the fact that he steps up constantly throughout this episode to help out the goods, whether it's the car keys so that they can bring the logs home, or they're just going round for the afternoon. And he probably had an ulterior motive for a bit of peace and quiet, but he went round to house sit in case the electrician came round. And so there was, he was obviously trying to be helpful, trying to be a good friend. And I admired that.
He's just a good egg, isn't he?
He is. And the moaning that he puts up with, because that's becoming, even though obviously the character of Margo is coming into its own the more episodes we watch, if you think of Jerry as a human being, as a real person, what he puts up with, the ear bashing and the mithering and the henpecking that he gets at home as a person, I think Jerry is a good egg.
He was definitely, I agree with you, he was my MVP as well, because
Yeah.
For all the reasons you just said, but also because basically he was a good friend, but he also had some great lines in that one. In his rows with Margo, and he had the last laugh, literally, because it went up, he was doing his as he went out, but he had the last laugh over Tom, so he was definitely the best in that episode for me.
I agree.
And of course, as usual, he wore, this is me doing a seamless link, as usual, he wore some fabulous clothes, which brings us nicely to
Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner. Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner.
The start of Fashion Corner, not for the first time, is Jerry's indoor-outdoor leather jacket. That's the jacket for every occasion, whether he's going to work, whether he's lolling about on the sofa with a gin, whether he's stalking around the back garden. This jacket just comes into its own in this episode. And also, the shirt... I think I mentioned a couple of episodes back, it's like a green and teal and white number that he often wears with this jacket, and it's a really good combo, and it's something that I want to see now. I want to see somebody wearing now, because I think it's timeless. It really is timeless. I've not got much to say about the other clothes in the episode, as they just all seem to sort of fade into the background with Jerry's ensemble. Although there was the Burberry slacks made another appearance on Jerry, which again are worth a mention on their own. I don't know. I've never watched this with these kind of eyes before, of looking out for fashion with regards to someone that isn't Margo, because she obviously often steals the show. She didn't in this episode. I think she had like a peachy, salmony coloured ensemble on at one point, but it was just not really noteworthy.
Later on in the episode, Margo does have a match. She comes in when she's coming in to moan about her gloves. She's got like a headband on that matches her blouse.
Yes, with a matching
nice.
smock. Yes, which is lovely. It is lovely. I think that's perhaps is that a gardening gear that she puts on? It's very lovely for gardening
when she's
gear.
got the genie in a lamp.
Yeah.
To do the water.
Yes. Just wandering around and just spraying things. But yeah, Jerry's jacket is my noteworthy piece of fashion in this episode, definitely.
Well, not wanting to rain on your parade, because this is very much Al's Fashion Corner, but I would like to draw attention to Tom's awesome duffel coat that he wears when he goes fishing. When he goes fishing, yes, he's fishing duffel coat. I bet it stinks. Because I'd forgotten all about duffel coats. You don't see them anymore. I had one when I was little. And he rocked the duffel coat when he went fishing. And of course, the busybody guy who called him a scoundrel, he was wearing like a tweed hat thing that was a bit like Sean Connery's in Indiana Jones.
I do love how whoever was the costume designer for The Good Life really does sort of set you up to see what people are wearing and make an assumption of whether it's class or education. You're drawn to their sort of standing in society based on what they've got on. So like a tweed hat, you would sort of associate with someone of the upper echelons, perhaps, and a duffel coat is just every day, every man. Yeah.
Of course, we've mentioned it before, but the person who is in charge of the sort of fashion on the show is probably freed up to concentrate on the other characters by virtue of the fact that Penelope Keith was given carte blanche to buy all her own clothes for the show.
So that, So I think she did a good job, because there is like a certain, you could, even now if you saw a picture of a dress, you could quite happily and quite easily say that's a Margo dress. So I think she did have a finger on the pulse and was able to do a good job of it, definitely.
I bet she was made up with that though. I mean,
I've
got a quote from her here, but she says that Penelope told an audience at Cheltenham Literature Festival. This isn't curmudgeonly for once. This is actually a quote which is quite positive from Penelope King. Penelope told the audience there were worries about the costume budget because Richard Bryce and Felicity Kendall decided that their green, make-do and men characters should wear the same clothes all the time. So the costume supervisor was determined to spend the entire budget in case her budget for the next programme was cut. So every Monday of the week, she went shopping in Harrods or along Regent Street, buying all these wonderful clothes, just because they were worried about the budget being cut. So she just got carte blanche to go and buy whatever she wanted.
Wow. That's such a
perk.
Yeah, and it's also quite like an old school way of having a budget, isn't it? That you had to spend it in order to keep it.
It's like a government thing, isn't it? That's what government agencies are like. They want to spend the money, otherwise they won't get it next year.
They won't get it next year, and yeah, I think it's definitely over time. That's possibly not something that you'd hear much of anymore.
So next week, do you know what next week's episode is called?
I do. It is, episode 6 is The Pagan Rite.
Ooh, I can't remember what that's about, can you?
Tom and Barbara are invited round to dinner after Andrew orders Jerry to invite them because he wants Tom to do some freelance work, apparently.
Oh, yeah. It does ring a bell, actually. So join us next week and we'll have a look. We'll have a big deep dive into that one and see if Tom can redeem himself by being less of a wanker. I doubt that he will, but you never know.
You never know. If you want to check us out on social media, you can find us at SADDO Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. We have a Facebook page that you can find by searching for SADDO Podcast. That's SADDO. We have a website, www.saddo.club, where you can get more information or listen to the episodes. Get in touch. You can email us at saddopodcast@gmail.com. And please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you can't find us wherever you get your podcasts and you've been forced to listen to it on the website, hit me up and tell me because I need to fix that shit. Thanks to Anya, as always, for our fabulous artwork. And thanks to Beat Raid, our favourite Macedonian song maker, who did us a wonderful cover of the Good Life theme tune, which we use every week. And thanks to you for listening. And we'll catch you next week, you scoundrels.
See you then.
Well, that's the last time I play the tart for you, Jerry.